Ubisoft, UBI, linear channel on the monthly time frame. You can see 1, 2, 3 touches to the top side, 1, 2, 3 touches underneath. We've got retracements from these highs to these lows, where the next high reaches the 1.14. From this high to this low to this next high, you get the retracement at 1.14. So the question is it going to do something similar again? That would be taking price action to between 144 and $300 on Ubisoft. A very massive target considering your entry is at $13. Price action on this retracement on the lows measured by the Rocky Outcrop Flash show prices managed to make it back to a 236. It's also at the 8 exponential moving average. So you've got this on the monthly time frame, the 8 period moving average, price action finding resistance there and at a 236. So we're waiting for a proper bottoming formation, which we'll check on other time frames. We've got all of that giving us a simple guideline for a potential trade from these lows to the top side of this linear channel. We will refine that trade and the risk reward as we go down. Onto the weekly then, see Rocky Outcrop Flash at 73.20. So that's the definitive target, not yet interrupted. It's at an 886 retracement from the previous high, and it's also in around where we find the important resistance within this linear channel. So you might be looking for this up to 73. Obviously, you can follow that trade to the top side and move your stop into profit as price action puts in higher lows. But if this is what you're looking at so far, risk reward is justified at 15 to 1 here. You're looking for your edge. Turn on the momentum indicator and you can see that price action most recently came back to the low within the channel, the place where price action typically finds a little bit of support, and it's at where you would typically find the deep retracements on the RSI, which suggests you've potentially got that momentum signature, though you'd need to break the 236 to confirm the local lows and price action to continue then onto the top side. Down to the daily time frame, remember we've got that flash and we adjusted our trade setup based on that. Here you can see slightly closer, we're looking at the downward sloping trend line we've seen most recently on Ubisoft. We'll take it from the high across the top of price action. You can see that to break this, you'd need to get back towards a golden pocket in the most recent fib, measuring it from this top side target. It's a 236 at that stage, matching up with a golden pocket suggests in at around $16. $16 then, can we work a trade that gives us the risk reward at these lows, justifying a target up at around 16? And could we then let that trade evolve into the flash target that we saw on the weekly and then the monthly target at the top side of the channel? Potentially we will drop down time frames. As you can see, you've got a very deep retracement here on the momentum signature, way down there and around towards 10, which is as low as it's previously got, apart from this downward sloping move here at the top of a uptrend, which gave a little bit of a warning sign that this might be a peak, especially when price action failed to break that previous high. It's a golden pocket retracement from the low to the high. Here came down again, fell through support, and at that stage you were potentially cautious about the idea of this long-term trend line finding price action at a low. Here it's made it, and holding the 236 is holding the bottom side of that channel, because on the daily it did put a little bit of a move beyond it. And so we've got an area of potential support below in around 11.25. So potentially price action comes down to that level, test the 236, takes the low side of the channel, and maybe you'd be looking for an entry in around 11.5, 11.25. So that does give us a slightly lower entry if we're to take a new trade from this area, because we might be, providing a good opportunity for people with this risk reward setup. This is a slightly tighter one. We're going to be targeting that golden pocket, and we're going to be looking for an entry based on the 236 and the channel. We'll take it at the time rather than set the trade up in advance, because it could well present circumstances that would be relevant at that time. And we'll take the prior low as the stop area. So this is what we'll be looking at. It doesn't give us a healthy enough risk reward ratio for any edge that you would use over a period of time. If we do give the target, actually put it in where it needs to be towards that golden pocket, you see that the risk reward ratio is actually slightly better than that first example, but we'll provide caution, so we'll just go slightly below it. So that's the daily time frame where the momentum is potentially signaling that prices could turn around, but you've also got continuation divergence on this most recent high. You're at a 200 period moving average there, which is the 50% tracement if you were to break it, and then you'd be on your way to the golden pocket. So price action might go this direction, might test this trade setup, but the risk reward it offers doesn't provide you a reliable way to enter the trade. On the 4-hour time frame, there's this caution now because there's an awful lot of confluence with 3 rocky outcrop flashes that have been interrupted but are below price action, below the prior low, and come in at around 625. And this is perhaps what comes either before or after a rejection of that trend line that we were talking about in the golden pocket on the higher time frame. So you might come up to around this zone, find rejection, and then it could be that price action comes down and tests these prior lows. Alternatively, price action, because we saw that continuation divergence, could fail now, at which point, why doesn't it want to give me an undo? At which point you might be looking at price action just collapsing at this area, coming back down, and then the momentum really going in to test these prior lows. At which point you might get higher low on the momentum with the lower low on price, fill in those flashes, get the divergence signal, and get a really strong bounce. So this is a cautious area, and it means that you definitely can't take that risk reward as it stands. You'd have to be looking at this as a continuation trade of a trade already in motion with a really tight stop to justify the risk reward, at which point you'd be looking for candlestick entries. The 50 simple's gone through the 200 period moving average there on the 4-hour time frame. That's a potential setup. So we'll go down to the hourly and look for the longs that would take us to this trade to the top side now. And as you can see, another rocky outcrop flash at $80. Really good sign for those people looking for a long. So if you're managing your trade, at this instance, there's so many top side targets that are so far away. The idea with this trade setup is to be able to enter at a low risk, high probability trade on the lower time frames to minimize the cost of this potential trade setup that might then evolve into something that's fantastic in retrospect. So managing the execution of this trade is so important, and that's a big secret to what a lot of the work that Tradespotting does, why his trades look so good. Managing those bigger trades on these smaller time frames to get the execution right so you can reduce your stop loss distance, and that tight stop loss gives you a lower cost of trade, which means you've got far more capital to play with and your portfolio will grow exponentially. And my New Year's resolution in 2021 on the show with a lot of people who were watching at that stage was to figure out ways to get a closer stop loss with the same trades, and that was a top secret, top trick that we developed here on the channel together. So if you are looking at price action come back down here on the 1-hour time frame looking for an entry, you would obviously be very cautious at the minute. There's continuation divergence previously, price action testing that level again. It doesn't look like it's critically weak on the momentum, but you do have a rocky outcrop flash coming in at 11.195. It's not interrupted. It is a 786 retracement, which would mean price action failing at resistance here, and it suggests imminently that this trade could be on. So let's again tighten this risk reward, take the trade over. You're going to want your entry at that flash or just above. You could take your low to the previous low in the formation, and then you're looking at that same resistance target in around potentially 15, and at that stage you've got a risk reward ratio that's really worth taking. I'll go back up to 4-hour show at 6.2. If you've got this trend line on the momentum, if price action manages to put in a higher low, but the momentum puts in a lower low within this level, it might suggest that there's going to be another bounce outside of the channel, all the rest of it. So that rocky outcrop flash, again an inflection point. If you get a bounce off it at a 236, you've got a really strong potential entry, and you've got at least a 5-to-1 risk reward ratio. All the way down at the hourly, that trade setup makes sense. You've got an edge to go with it now. You're looking for a candlestick entry. That's something going, signifying a bullish execution. It'll come with its own risk management, and that gives you another opportunity to hone in on that area, that inflection point, and get that really tight stop loss. So you go to the hourly, you can see the flash at 11.195. On the 30-minute, you see that flash is also there. You can see there's continuation divergence on price itself at resistance, and a retracement to these areas very possible. So why would that happen despite there being so much bullish news? That bullish news being, as we see on IGN, Ubisoft says that 2 million players after 2 days from release. It surpassed Origins and Odyssey launches, and it makes it the second biggest selling game they've ever done. Here we can see more information again. This time, PC Games, big publication, it's not the hit that Ubisoft desperately needs, according to analysts. Well, the numbers so far are positive, but the analysts don't think the long-term likely outlook is good enough to save the stock. On to these guys now, talking about that second biggest launch to date, so a significant release just behind Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So an awful lot of interest in that franchise gives clear value to the brand holding it. Ubisoft themselves have done very well to control the news at these lows. Skyrocket on buyout speculation. At this point, you got big moves in the stock. That was off a rumor that China's Tencent, one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, were going to buy Ubisoft. That would be a huge merger. Previous to that, a couple of months ago, or just after that, was it? When was that news article out? October the 8th, and this is December the 6th. So a couple of months later, there was news about a management buyout. So an MBO of Ubisoft also on the cards, and that's because the people who work there potentially see a lot of value in the franchises and each other and think that they could cut costs and still have a successful business. So that's an interesting news angle. You can also see that they've addressed rumours here. Ubisoft themselves French, and an awful lot of news. And that news is about Ubisoft being a potential candidate for acquisition or a potential management buyout, which should suggest that there is some belief in the stock. And let's go back to the chart and let's go back to that weekly time frame and see these different trade setups now with that Rocky Outcrop Flash on the go. It wouldn't be impossible, then, you can see, we've illustrated, to find a safe way to enter this trade, despite the fact that it's at a low, it's very dangerous, and the risk is extremely high. And what we're doing here is not necessarily targeting these highs, we're managing our execution so that whatever happens, if it is a topside move, we can benefit, and if that is an extremely strong side topside move, we can really, really benefit. So you'd be looking at something like a 600, 700% move just to take it back to those rock outcrop flashes that we were talking about, the interim, the medium ones. And if it makes it to the extension targets, the 1.14 we're looking at here, then that would be a 2,400% move. So this is Ubisoft with flashes that allow you to get in at the low, targets to the top side that justify the trade, and risk management that will help you get through that position without it costing you very much. And this is how Tradespotting trades. Thousands of percent to the top side, only the very minimal cost to enter the trade, the highest possible risk that can be managed sensibly so that I can take that opportunity that others are too afraid to, and I can benefit from providing that liquidity at those levels the company needs it, and shift that risk off to somebody else when it's lower and they like that type of trade. I like a lot of chocolate on my biscuit, and Rocky Outcrop and I teach this method for trade and have done for years, and it's really, really, really successful. So this is a trade setup that we're putting on the paid side of Discord only. Those people who are interested in it will be able to find that video on the community pick side of Discord. It will later be released to the public, and you guys will be able to see how everybody who invests that small amount in their own development and progress as a trader by joining the paid side of Discord gets infinitely more value returned to them in every single post from Rocky Outcrop and I. Never mind this one, which is absolutely stonk and could blow the top off your account. Absolutely brilliant. So 2,600% plus on the table here. An awful lot of philosophy and rules about how to get the most of your portfolio, the type of tickers to look for, those that might interest you personally, with the risk management guidance alongside it. So an awful lot of positive, helpful information here on the Rocky Outcrop Discord. The setup for this was mentioned on the show previously. We talked about the entry in at around 9 being very, very possible. We entered just at $10 and change, and Tradespotting's already in a trade here. I talked about it in at around New Year. I was going to do a big show all about massive moves we'll see this year, but unfortunately I went into hospital and then had to keep going in for half a dozen operations to chop bits out of my body. But I'm recovered now from the virus and recovering myself health-wise. Thanks very much for everybody who's been putting in the effort over the last couple of months, really killing it here. The team's doing brilliantly. Ubisoft. This trade setup, I would have presented more clearly on the show, but I don't want to cannibalize or sabotage the feeling of responsibility and loyalty that people in live person have towards me. So there is a thin line I have to navigate there in the best possible way to help everybody. Had it been that live person had exploded above that $5 to $8 level already, then perhaps we would have been discussing how this risk management setup is perhaps more suitable for some types of traders, and they would have been able to pivot some of their position into this particular stock or others that I've also got planned. Now, there's a number of them. I'm hoping that I can string them together for those people who don't have the confidence to act on their own technical analysis, but do understand the risk management and use stop losses, so that I can help people build their account to significant levels and develop that confidence concurrently. It's experience that helps people with real true confidence, and with these little walkthroughs and guides, hopefully I can provide some of that for you to benefit of mine to boost the long-term outcomes for yourself. Now, thank you very much. Again, like I say, this is initially going out to people who have already invested in supporting themselves. You'll have potentially noticed lots of other things we talked about recently on that same community picks thread for those people who invest in themselves, follow along with the show. We had an ATTR entry here. It was a really strong trade. It's already moving very, very well, as we would have anticipated. Let me get it up on the screen for everybody. You can see that initial breakout move. At the trade here, it was pre-market and earnings were suggested, then price action came back down, tested these entries. All of this happened subsequent to the move to the top side there. Got the entry, you got the move, you got in at around got a target of around 344. And if you took it from that entry, though you could have done slightly better, 45% move on the day. So a lot of people doing work on the day. Also, well, if you're on that side of community picks, will have noticed the NVIDIA trade set up, the 139 target, and stop loss zones below that made that all very well. Not sure why it isn't showing up there, but that trade's also very positive. A lot of people taking it. There's also people taking the Microsoft trade from 380, those levels. On this guy, we're targeting it, potentially making a recovery in 886 back up in at around 430. In advance of that, we could easily see it test back up towards golden pocket, 200 period moving average and meet price around 390, 400. So huge moves potentially on really big stocks that will happen quickly enough that they'll provide a lot of velocity to your portfolio, and everybody following along in 2025 is going to do very well in community picks. So join that side of the Discord if you're seeing this video late, and if you're already there, then I salute you. See you on that thread and across the paid side of Discord shortly. Thank you very much. Tradespotting. This isn't something you necessarily need to like and comment on, though. If you do take the trade and you do comment below, other people will be able to congratulate you when they see the video. Thank you very much for watching and for being a supporter of the Discord and the community here. I'll see you in the next show. I've been Tradespotting. Not that it is a show. It's just a little helpful post for people on Discord. 20 minutes. 20 minutes of brilliant value. Tell you what, like, that's absolutely spectacular. Really glad what we're doing around here. Thanks.